Okay, fine. Good afternoon. So let us start. So we are discussing about defalsification techniques. So in the last class we have discussed about alpha cut or delta cut method, which is one of the defalsification technique. So basically defalsification techniques are used to convert fuzzy values to crisp values. So there are many other defalsification techniques. So the remaining other defalsification techniques we will be discussing in this lecture. So basically in this lecture we will be discussing centroid based defalsification techniques. So defalsification technique based on centroid methods. So these are the whatever the defalsification techniques that we are going to discuss can be broadly classified into three categories, or whatever the defalsification techniques based on centroid methods can be broadly classified into three techniques. One is called as maxima method, the other one is centroid methods, the other one is weighted average method. Again, in maxima method we have these four types. We will be discussing all these four types: height method, first of maxima, last of maxima, and mean of maxima. Okay. And in centroid method, again we have three types: center of gravity method, center of sum method, and center of area method. Okay. So under maxima methods we have four types: height, first of maxima, last of maxima, and mean of maxima. Under centroid method we have three types: center of gravity method, center of sum method, and center of area method. So all these three techniques we will be discussing. And weighted average, for weighted average method we don't have any subtypes, it is just weighted average method. Okay. So these are the things which we are going to discuss in this lecture. Fine. So first let us start with so okay, so before going to centroid we'll go as per that okay, this is sorry. Yeah, so here is the maxima method. Okay, so these are the so these are the techniques we have: maxima method, centroid methods, and weighted average method. Okay, so first we'll be discussing about maxima method. So these are the three types of defalsification techniques we'll be discussing: maxima method, centroid method, and weighted average method. So under maxima methods we have these three, again centroid we have these three, and weighted average we have these three. So first we will be discussing about maxima method. So this is maxima method. So basically all these are techniques for defalsification. Defalsification means what? It is to convert fuzzy values to crisp values, right? So the maxima method, it is also the first method of maxima method is called as height method. So height method, what it says in the sense, it simply says that mu c of x star, this x star represents the defalsified value or the crisp value. Okay, the crisp value is nothing but the highest value of the membership function. Okay, so whatever the value of x for which you get the highest value in the membership function, the membership value, so that value will be considered as the crisp value. So if you take this particular membership function here, for one particular x, say let us assume this x as x star, for this x star value alone the membership value will be high. This is the peak point. Okay, so this particular x, whatever this x value, so that particular x we are calling it as x star, so that that particular x value will be considered as the crisp value, or that will be considered as the defalsified value. Okay, for example, say for example, these are the x values 0, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so if x star value is 3, and for that value of x you are getting the highest uh, value of membership value. Okay, so x star equal to 3, so this 3 will be considered as the defalsified value. Okay, so that means anything greater than or equal to 3 we will treat as 1, anything less than 3 we will treat as 0, right? Okay, but this method is applicable, when the height is unique, in the sense you should have only one peak value, then only you can apply this method. Suppose if this graph is something like this, then you cannot apply this method, because here there are more than one x value will have the highest point. Okay, so then if you consider this as the x, no, so maybe of all these x between these ranges will get the highest value, so in that case this method cannot be applied. Okay, so this technique is called as height method. So height method can be applied only if there is only one peak point. Okay, so I guess you are following. I will give one example for this. Mm, say there is a, what do you call, say there is a member, say there is a fuzzy set which is given something like this: a is equal to x1 comma 0.2, x2 comma 0.8, x3 comma 0.9, x4 comma 0.6. Okay, so for this fuzzy set, what will be the if you are using height method, how will you find x star, that is the crisp value? What will be the crisp value? Any idea? If you are using height method, given this particular input, what will be x star, that is what will be the crisp value. So this method, what it says, whichever the x value for which you are getting the peak value, that x will be considered as the crisp value. So x star will be equal to what? Yes, answer please. What will be the value of x star? Are you following or not? See, for which value of x here the membership value is maximum? In this example, for which x the membership value is maximum? Yes, for which value of x the membership value is maximum? Here for x3 the membership value is maximum. Yes, somebody is telling something. Which value of x you have the highest membership value? For x3 you have the highest membership value, so here x star will be equal to x3. Okay, but this technique can be used only if you have only one maximum value. Okay, for example, if x4 is also 0.9, then you cannot use this technique, right? So this is what this is how the height method works. Okay, and the next method is called as FOM, first of maxima. So this method is called, as the name itself says, it is called as first of maxima. So this technique allows more than one maximum value. but if there are more than one maximum value, it will take that x value which gives the first maximum value. Okay, so here a membership function is given like this. So these are the different x values like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So now if you see here, all the for any value of x between 6 to 8, for any value of x between 6 to 8, you are getting the highest membership value. Okay, now how will you convert this how will you convert this fuzzy values to crisp values? I mean the fuzzy values represented by this membership function, how will you convert to crisp value? If you are using FOIM method, so FOIM method says that out of all the values of x which gives the highest membership value, you take the first value. So which is the first x which gives the highest membership value, that is 6. Okay, so x star will be 6. Okay, because even though 6, 7, 8 all the three gives the highest membership value, we have to take the first one. So that is what this technique says, FOM, first of maxima. So the x value which gives uh, the first x value which gives the maximum membership value is 6. So this will take 6 as the output. Okay, so the equivalent crisp value generated is 6. And the next method is called as LOM. LOM means so last of maxima. So it is quite opposite to that. It is called as last of maxima. That is, if there are more than one value of x which is producing the highest membership value, then out of all the x's you pick up the last x value. Okay, say for example here again, if you number this x 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, probably this may be 6 and this may be 8. So here again 6, 7, 8, all these are producing the maximum value for the membership function. Okay, but this technique is called as last of maxima, and here you have to take the last value of x which gives the maximum result. Okay, so what will be, so the output will be x star is equal to 8. Okay, so this technique is called as last of maximum, right? Okay, and the next technique is called as MOM, mean of maximum. So here what we do in the sense, we take the actually we take whatever the we take whichever the x value which gives the maximum membership value, we take average of all those things. Okay. So we take average of all the x's which produces the maximum value. So if there are 4 x values which is producing maximum membership value, then we add all those things and divide it by 4. Okay, so here is an example. Suppose a fuzzy set young is defined as follows. This is how a fuzzy set young is defined. These are the different x1, x2, x3. Okay, so that is, if the age is 15, then the membership value is 0.5. 20 it is 0.8. 25 it is 0.8. 30 0.5. 35 0.3. Okay, now how will you divide how will you identify the crisp value? By using MOM method, that is mean of maxima method. So here the maximum value for the maximum membership value is 0.8, and we are getting 0.8 for two values of x. These are 20 and 25. So we have to take the average of this. So just take the average. So x star is equal to 20 plus 25 by 2, which is 22.5. Okay, so 22.5 is the crisp value when you use mean of maxima method. Okay, if you use FOM, what is the crisp value? Could someone answer? If you use FOM, what will be the crisp value in this case? Yes, if you use FOM technique, first of maxima technique, what will be the crisp value? What will be x star? See, either you answer or you say don't know. If you are keeping quiet, no, that is very. Are you following or not? When you use FOM, what will be XOR? Yes. Answer. You guys are here or not? When you use FOM technique, what will be the crisp value? 20. Yeah, you see, I'm unable to see the chat. Okay, I'm using one system. So it would be better if you open the mouth and say, because every time I cannot move to the chat window. Yeah, 20, that is fine, that is correct. Okay, if you use LOM technique, lost of maxima, then what will be? Yeah, 25, good. Okay, fine. So can you apply height method here? Is it possible to apply height method here to identify the crisp value? How? Well, if you apply height method, what will be the output? The first technique is called as height technique. Can you apply that method? See, height method cannot be applied here. Okay, please understand. Height method can be applied if there is only one maximum point. Okay. See here in this example, only for x3 there is a 0.9. There is no other 0.9. Only in that case we can apply height method. Okay. So in this case, actually you cannot apply height method because there are two peak points, 0.8 and 0.8. So height method is applicable only when there is one maximum point. Okay. So here is another example. Say there is a membership function which is represented through this graph. Now if you want to identify the crisp value, then what you have to do is x star is equal to these 2 points a plus b by 2. That's it. Okay. And if you, in this case, FOM will be, if you apply FOM, x star will be a. If you apply LOM, that is lost of maxima, x star will be b. Okay. Fine. So these are the maxima methods. These are the maxima methods which are available for defuzzification. That is to convert a fuzzy value to a crisp value. Okay. Next we will be discussing the centroid methods. So there are three types of centroid methods we will be discussing. One is called as center of gravity. The other is center of sum. The other is center of area method. Okay. So first let us start with center of gravity. So the basic principle in center of gravity method is to find a point x star. Okay, from the membership plot, we have to find a point x star where a vertical line would slice the entire area into two equal masses. Okay, so you have to find a value x star and you have to find a point x star, and if you draw a vertical line over that point, it should divide that entire graph area into two equal halves. Okay, so mathematically center of gravity method can be expressed something like this: x star is equal to integration of x into membership function of x dx divided by membership function of x dx. Okay, so this is how it is represented. So we'll discuss this with an example, but just try to understand this something like a formula. So at the numerator we have integration of x into membership value of x dx, but in the denominator we only have membership value of x dx. Okay, so so logically what you have to understand is, given a membership function represented as a graph, we have to find a point in the graph x star such a way that when a vertical line is drawn it will divide that graph into equally two parts. Okay, fine. So x star is then some point in x coordinate, and integration of membership function of x dx denotes the area of region bounded by the curve. I think this you are aware, you might have learned in school days. So integration of a function, represents area under the see, any curve can be represented as a function. Okay, any curve can be represented as a function, and if you integrate uh, over that function, you will get the area of that particular curve. Okay, or if you integrate between some point in that particular function, say this is a and b, if you integrate from a to b on this function, and if this function is represented by something f of x d f of x, and if you integrate it between a and b, then you will get the area of this portion. Okay, if you integrate the entire curve, then you will get the area of the whole curve. So integration of mu c of x dx denotes the area of the region bounded by the curve. Okay, if mu c is defined with a discrete membership function, then COG can be stated as, so this is with integration, but this can also be equally written using summation. So if it is a discrete membership function, if the membership function is not a continuous membership function, if it is a discrete membership function, then x star can be represented something like this. X star is equal to sigma I equal to 1 to n xi into membership value of xi divided by the summation of all xi. Okay, so at the numerator we have summation of xi into the membership value of all xi. At the denominator we have only summation of all membership value of xi. Okay, right, fine. So let us understand this with an example. So basically what we are going to do in the sense, see, whatever the any fuzzy values can be represented through some membership function. So this membership function can be plotted as a graph. So when you plot it as a graph, you will get something like this, some irregular shape. Okay, but this graph you can divide it into several subplots. Say for example, this is one portion, you can divide, this is one part. Okay, we can call this part as, say, part 1, and this is another part of the graph, part 2, this is another part 3, this is another part 4, part 5, part 6, part 7. Like this we can divide the graph into several parts, and then you find the area of each of the part. For this part we can find the area. Okay, and similarly for this part we can find the area, then for this part we can find the area, like that for every part we can find the area. Okay, so after finding the area, the area of all the parts, then according to COG, if it is a discrete values, if these are discrete values, then you can perform this summation of xi into ai. Okay, so where xi is the centroid point, for each area you have a centroid point. Okay, so that centroid point is called as xi, right? So for which value of x there is a centroid point, so that value of x will be the centroid location, right? For every area there will be a center of gravity, and for that center of gravity there will be an x associated with that. So that is what this xi says. Okay, and this ai represents the area. So multiply this xi with ai and divide by the sum of all areas, right? And using integral method also it can be done. So when you use integral method, say you have two plots like this. This is a membership function corresponding to C1. This is a membership function corresponding to C2. Now this two membership function, say this plot represents the union of these two membership function. So this is nothing but C is equal to C1 union C2. So this is the union of these two membership function. So when you unite these two membership function, this is what the resultant function you get. Okay, so if I draw this C1 here, or if I draw C1 in this plot, C1, if you see, at 2 it is reaching 0.7. Okay, so at 2 it should reach 0.7, so it is something like this. At 2 it is reaching 0.7, then up to 3 it is continuing in 0.7. Okay, then from 3 it is going down and it is going up to 4. Okay, right? Yeah, it's not I have not drawn very perfectly, but the shape is something like this. So at 3 it started going down, what is like this. Okay, now if you combine these two, that is union, means you have to take the peak point. So if you perform union on this, the resultant graph will be like this. This will be the resultant graph. Okay, this will be the resultant graph, right? So that we got this plot. Okay, right? So these values, sorry, so this will be the resultant plot. Okay, so now let us see how we will apply a center of gravity method on this. Okay, now this plot you can divide into several areas. Like this is one area. Okay, this area we call it as A1. This is another area, this is A2. This is another area A3. This is another area A4. This is another area A5. Now we want to find the area of all these portions. Okay, so how to find the area of all these portions? So okay, so here we are finding the area of all these portions. So here actually we are using line equation. So the line equation, you might be knowing. So it is y minus y1 divided by x minus x1 equal to y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. Okay, so first we are going to calculate the area falling under this particular line. Okay, so this line you take. So this is x1 y1. Okay, and this is x2 y2. Okay, so could someone say what is x1 y1? What is x1? What's the value of x1 and y1? Yes, what is x1 and what is y1? Answer please. See, we want to, so both are 0. Okay, what is x2 and what is y2? This is x2. The x2, what is x2? X2 is 2. Yeah, y2 is 0.7. Okay, now plug in this equation. Plug in this equation. So y minus 0 divided by x minus 0 equal to y2 minus y1. 0.7 minus 0 is 0.7. x2 minus x1. 2 minus 0 is 2. Okay, so what you get is 0.7 by 2. That is here also y by, so y by x is equal to 0.7 by 2 is 0.35. Okay, so y is equal to 0.35 into x, right? So that is anything between 0 to 2, any value of x between 0 to 2, the y value will be nothing but 0.35 into x. Okay, so now that is how we got this, right? Similarly, so this is the area of this particular line. Okay, area under this particular line. Similarly, you find the area of this portion BC. So if you take BC, then this point is x1 y1 and this point is x2 y2. Okay, so now what is x1 y1? What is x1 y1? Yes, What is, if you consider BC, what is x1 y1? Response please. What is x1 y1? Yes. Okay. See, but actually in this case you need not calculate anything, because this is a perfect straight line. There is no slope involved in this. So whatever the value between 2 to 2.7, whatever the value of x between 2 to 2.7, the value of y will be 0.7 only. Okay. So whenever x is between 2 to 2.7, the value of y will be 0.7. That you can directly decide by seeing this graph. Okay. So here you can see, whenever x is between 0 to 2, whenever x is between 0 to 2, the y value will be 0.35x. That is what we calculated previously. And whenever x is between 2 to 2.7, the y value will be 0.7. That is, that we can observe from the graph. So we can leave that. Let us not calculate that. But we have to calculate the next case, C2D. The area falling under this particular portion C2D. So you take C2D. Now what is the value of x1 y1? So I mean this point will be x1 y1, and this D point will be x2 y2. Okay. So what is x1? What is x1? X1 is 2.7, right? X1 is 2.7, y1 is 0.7. What is x2? This is x2 y2. X2 is 3, y2 is 1, right? Y2 is 1. Okay, again plug in this equation. Okay, so y minus y1, that is y minus 0.7 divided by x minus x1, that is x minus 2.7. Okay, which is equal to y2 minus y1, that is 1 minus 0.7 is 0.3 divided by x2 minus x1. 3 minus 2.7 is also 0.3. 0.3 by 0.3 is 1. Okay, so this becomes 1. So it means y minus 0.7, this is 1. So y minus 0.7 is equal to x minus 2.7. Okay, so y is equal to x minus 2.7 plus 0.7, which means y is equal to x minus 2. Okay, so anything between this range of x, the y will be nothing but x minus 2. Okay, so here we got x minus 2, right? Again, next, if you see, for these ranges between 3 to 4, the y value is 1, so that is directly is visible. So for x between 3 to 4, y is 1. Okay, and between, for this line again you can calculate. Okay, so this is, now this is x1 y1, and this is x2 y2. Okay, so here what's the value of x1? Yes, what's the value of x1? X1 is 4, y1, what's y1? What's the value of y1? This is y, right? What is y1? 1. What is x2? What is x2? 6. What is y2? 0. Okay, now plug into this equation, right? So if you plug into this equation, again what you will get? So it is y minus y1. So it's y minus, so y minus 1. Okay, divided by x minus x1, that is x minus 4, which is equal to y2 minus y1. y2 is 0, 0 minus 1 is minus 1 divided by x2 minus x1. 6 minus 4 is 2. Okay, so which is equal to y minus 1 is equal to minus 1 by 2 into x minus 4. Okay, right. So y is equal to, y is equal to 1 plus minus 0.5 into x minus 4, right? Yeah, so you can still simplify this. So this is 1 minus 0.5 x, 0.5 into 4. What is that? Minus 0.5 into 4 is nothing but plus 2. Okay, so 2 plus 1 is 3. So it is 3 minus 0.5x. Okay, so that you got this 3 minus 0.5x plus 3, or you can say 3 minus 0.5x, right? So these are the various areas we got for different portion of the curve. Okay, so for this portion, this is a1 is something, a2, a3, a4, all these things we have collected, right? Okay, so we got all these things. Okay, now what we are going to do, so we are discussing about COG method, center of gravity method. So we are going to apply this using integration technique. Okay, if you recall this integration technique, it is this is the formula. Yeah, integration of x into membership value of the membership, I mean the membership function of x dx divided by integration of membership function of x dx. Okay, so now we don't have one curve. This one curve we divided into several small curves, and for every curve we have found the area, right? Now this you have to plug into this equation, right? Okay, and what is the range? The range also you should know. Okay, for this particular, for this what is the range? For this the range is 0 to 2. For the first value the range is 0 to 2, next it is 2 to 2.7, next to 2.7 to 3, for this 3 to 4, and the last one 4 to 6. Okay, because here for integration we have to apply range. Okay, so this is the numerator part and this is the denominator part. So here we are writing the numerator part alone. So 0.35 x square. Okay, why this x square comes? Because here it is 0.35 x. As per the formula you have to multiply another x. As per the formula you have to multiply another x. Okay, because it is x into the membership function into dx. Okay, so the membership function is 0.35x. The membership function is 0.35x, but apart from that you have another x, so you got this x squared dx. Okay, similarly next also if you see, it is the next one is just 0.7, right? Yeah, it is 0.7 into x. I don't think here that x square is there. Okay, and the next value is what? It is x minus 2. So x minus 2 into x. So here we are multiplying x minus 2 into x, which is x squared minus 2x, right? Okay, and the last case here is 1. So 1 into x is x into dx. Okay, and next is minus 0.5 x plus 3 into x. Into x is minus 0.5 x squared plus 3x into dx, right? Here in this case there will not be the x square, it is just x, right? Okay, so this is the numerator part. So if you simplify this, so what is integration of x and dx? What is integration of x and dx? Yes, integration of x and dx is x to the power n plus 1 divided by n plus 1. Okay, this is the formula, right? Integration of x to the power n dx is x to the power n plus 1 divided by n plus 1, right? Okay, if for example this is going from 2 to 3. Okay, if it is going from 2 to 3, okay, then what you have to do is, first you have to, for for n, first you have to take 2. Okay, for whatever, for x first you have to substitute 2 and you have to find, then for x you have to substitute 3 and you have to find and subtract that 2. That will be the result, right? So like that only here it is being done. Okay, so it is everywhere this formula, x to the power n plus 1 divided by n plus 1. Apply the integration and this is the result you will get for the numerator part. Similarly, the denominator part, we don't have that another x. We have only integration of x dx. That's it. Okay. So if you work out this, here you will get 3.445. If you divide this, if you divide both, you will get this value, right? So this is the, what you call, this is the defussified value or the crisp value. Okay. So this is how the center of gravity technique works. So basically, whatever the membership function we have, if you have more than one membership function, then you have to take a union of that, and then you have to divide that graph into several small parts and find the area under each part. Okay, and find that range between each area, and then you have to apply on this formula, right? So this is how COG technique works, right? Okay, the next method, so we have three methods under centroid method. One is COG, center of gravity. The next is center of sum. So now we'll be discussing the next method, which is called the center of sum. So in this case, what we do in the sense, basically here we are going to combine multiple fuzzy sets. Okay, so the output of a fuzzy set C is nothing but it is a combination of several other fuzzy sets. C is equal to C1 union C2 union so on up to Cn. Okay, so the crisp value we are going to obtain like this: x star is equal to sigma I equal to 1 to n xi into ACI divided by sigma I equal to 1 to n ACI. So ACI is nothing but area under one particular curve. Okay, and this CI is nothing but the center point of that particular curve. Okay, CI is the center point of that particular curve. So for example, if you have three membership functions, say C1, C2 and C3, then find the area of this separately, find the area of this separately, find the area of this separately, and for each of this curve you find an x which is middle of this point. Okay, starting from here to here, what is the center point, that x you found. Similarly here also, starting from here to here, what is the center x point, find that. Similarly here also, starting from here to here, find the middle x point. Okay, so now what we have to do is, in the numerator it is x1 into the area under this curve plus x2 into area under this curve plus x3 into area under this curve divided by sum of all the areas, right? So this is how the center of sum methods work. So here is an example. Here is an example for center of sum method. So let us consider these particular membership functions. Okay, so there is a membership function given like this, there is another membership function given like this, there is another membership function given like this. So basically all these are trapezoids. So the area under a trapezoid is given by this formula. The area under a trapezoid is given by this formula, which is equal to, area A is equal to A plus B by 2 into H. Okay, where this portion is the height. Okay, for example, this you can call it as the height, maximum height. So in this case it is somewhere, it is 0.3. So we can say this is H is 0.3. Okay, and what is A? This region is called as A. This region is called as, the top width is called as A. Okay, so A, you can see it is between 1 and 5. So 5 minus 1 is 4. So in our case A is 4 and B is nothing but this area is called as B, 0 to 5. This is B. So what is our B value as per this? B ranges from here to here. What is B value? Yes. What is the value of B? B is 6. Okay. So what is the area of this particular curve? What is the area of this trapezoid? Yes. It is 4 plus A is 6. Okay, 6 plus 4 by 2 into H. H is 0.3. So that is 10 by 2. 10 by 2 is 5. 5 into 0.3. Okay. Right. So that is it is so 1.5. This is what we are getting. Similarly, you can find for this. Okay. So here, what is the value of H? What's the value of H here? Answer please. What's the value of H here? In the second plot, what's the value of H? Yes. You can type in the chat also. What's the value of H in the second plot? In this plot, what is the value of H? See, if you are keeping quiet, there is no point, right? At least you should respond. Whether it is correct or not, that is different. You can type in the chat window also. What is the value of H in the second plot? Yes, Bibin, could you answer? What's the value of H? Yes, Rupesh. What's the value of H? See, if you are not answering, I will assume that none of you are here and I will mark absent for you all. That's what I am going to do. Two point five. Not 2.5. See what is H is this. H is this. What is H? It's not 2.5. What is this? What is the height? What is the height value? 0.5. H is 0.5. What is A? What's the value of A here? A is the base width. What's the value of A? Not 3. 7 minus 3 is how much? 3 to 7. The distance between 3 to 7 is A. So 1, 2, 3, 4. This is A. What is B? What's the value of B? B is the top width. This is B. What is the value of B? B is not 2. See, this is from here to here. 4 to 7. B is from 4 to 7. 4 to 7 is 3. Okay. Now plug into the formula. Now what is the calculate area? What is area? What's the value of area? Area will be 4 plus 3 by 2 into 0.5, right? That is 7 by 2, 3.5 into zero point 0.5, which is 7, right? Okay. So like that you can calculate area for this also, right? So like that you calculate area for all the three membership functions. Then find the midpoint. So midpoint, how will you find? See, the midpoint of this plot is 0 to 5. 0 to 5 is 6. So 6 by 2, 6 by 2 is 3. 3 is the midpoint for this one. This one, the midpoint is 3. Similarly, for this one, what is the midpoint? It is 3 to 7. So what is the midpoint? What will be the midpoint of this plot? Here it is 0 to 6, 0 to 5, that is 0 to 5 is actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, or it's not 3, it is 2.5. You can say this is 2.5 because totally there are 5 things. 5 by 2 is 2.5. Here you have basically the height. The height of this base divided by 2. The height is what? 4. 4 by 2 is 2. So here the midpoint is 2. Okay. What is the midpoint of this? What is the midpoint of this? What is the length of this? 6.5. Yes. Yeah, Rupesh, you are correct. This is starting with 3. Okay, this is starting with 3 and it is going up to 7. Yes. So you can say that it is 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, 4 by 2 is 2. So you can say that its midpoint is 5. You can say its midpoint is 5, not 6.5. Okay, it is in between these two, right? Okay. So or you can just add these two things. 7 plus 3, 10. 10 by 2 is 5. Okay, you can calculate like this. So what is the midpoint of this? What's the midpoint of this? 8 plus 5 by 2. 8 plus 5 is 13. Okay, 13 by 2, 6.5. Yes, this is the midpoint, right? So like this you calculate midpoint for everything, right? So now you have calculated midpoint and you have calculated average. Then you just plug into this formula. The formula is what? That midpoint, sum of the summation of midpoint into average. Okay, and divided by sum of all averages, right? So here, so this is what it shows. Okay, see, you can see here. So how we calculate the area for the first curve. Okay, half into 0.3 into 3 plus 5. So that's what we have did here. So this half, okay, into 0.3 plus into 3 plus 5 into 3 plus 5. Okay, this is this is 5, not 6. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this is 3. 1, 2, I mean this is only up to here. Okay, so it is 3, right? So it is 3. So that's why half into 0.3 into 3 plus 5. Similarly, area of the second curve is half into 0.5 into 4 plus 2. Okay, so this is 4 and this is up to this only. So it is 2, right? Similarly, the area of the third curve, and this is the midpoint for the first curve, 2.5, second it is 5, third it is 6.5, and then plug into this equation. So the result what you get, as a result whatever the value you get, so that is nothing but the crisp value. Okay, so this method, so calculating crisp value by this method is called as COS, center of sum method. Okay, so this technique is called the center of sum. right? Okay, so similar to that, we have another technique which is called the center of largest area. Center of largest area. So if the fuzzy set has two subregions, then the center of gravity of the subregion with the largest area can be used to calculate the defuzzified value, right? So if you have more than one fuzzy sets, okay, and one of the fuzzy set is the largest of that, one of the fuzzy set is the largest of all the two or three, then then you can use this, then whatever the set which is of largest area, that set center of gravity you can use to calculate the defuzzified value, right? So this is about what you call, so that's it about centroid method. So basically here we have discussed about center of gravity method, center of sum method, and the third technique is center of area. Actually it is center of largest area, but this is applicable only if you, only if the, only if you have more than one uh, membership function, and if one of the membership function is largest, then you can use, then you can apply centroid, center of gravity technique on this particular function alone, and whatever the crisp value you get for this particular function alone, you can say that as the output. Okay, so that's what this technique says. If the fuzzy set has two subregions, then the center of gravity of the subregion with the largest area can be used to calculate the defuzzified value, and it is represented like this. Okay, so integration of mu cm x into x dash dx, where x dash is the center of gravity of the cm. Okay, cm is the one with the largest area. Okay, so that's it about center of centroid based methods. So next we'll be discussing about weighted average method. So under weighted average method, we have only one technique. There is no sub techniques. Okay. So here what we do. So this is the general equation which is given like this. The membership function of every x into x divided by the sum of the membership function. Sum of the membership function of all fuzzy sets into x divided by sum of all the membership functions. So if you have three plots something like this, see each of these represents one, so each of these are represent one membership function of a particular fuzzy set. Okay, so C1 is one membership function, C2 is another membership function, and C3 is another membership function. Then we take this center value, the middle value of this, and we just apply on this formula. Okay, and we apply on this formula the middle value into the membership value divided by sum of all the membership values. That's it. Okay, but this technique is this is an important point. This technique is applicable only for symmetric membership function. This weighted average method is applicable only for symmetric membership function. So what is meant by symmetric membership function? So this membership function is called as symmetric because in both sides it behaves in the same way. Previously we have discussed symmetric membership function. That is, to the left of x1 also it behaves in the same way. To the right of x1 also it behaves in the same way with respect to this function. Similarly, if you take this function, it behaves in the similar way to the left of x2 and also to the right of x2. Similarly, this also behaves in the same way to the left of x2, x3 and to the right of x3. Okay, so such membership functions are called as symmetric membership function, and only for symmetric membership function this weighted average technique is applicable. Okay, so these are the various methods of defuzzification, right? So here we have some examples. Find the crisp value of the following using all defuzzified methods. So we have discussed several methods. Okay, so So if you say, for example, okay, consider only this function. Consider only C2. Don't consider C1. If you consider only C2, and if you apply height technique, and if you apply the maximum height technique, then what will be the defalsified value, or what will be the crisp value for this membership function C2? Consider only the membership function corresponding to C2. 5 and 1.0. Why 1.0, Gautam? Why are you saying 1.0? Yeah, 5 is the output. Okay, we need only x. Okay, we need only x, not y. Yeah, so for 5 it is giving 1.0, right? So the crisp value is nothing but 5. Okay, fine. Consider this C1 alone. Consider this C1 alone. Okay, if you apply FOIM technique, then what will be the crisp value? What will be x star? Yes, x star will be 1. Okay, because here it's getting the maximum value. If you apply LOM, then what will be x star? Yeah, x star will be 3. Okay, good. If you apply MOM, mean of maxima, what will be x star? If you apply MOM, what will be the for this particular thing? Yes, if you apply MOM, what will be the result? 2. 3 plus 2, 5. 5 plus 1, 6. Yeah, 6 by 3 is 2, right? 3 plus 2, 5. 5 plus 1, 6. 6 by totally 3. 3 x values we are applying. So 3. 6 by 3 is 2, right? Good. Okay, fine. Okay. How will you say consider these two membership functions? Consider both the membership functions. Now how will you apply center of gravity technique? COG. Consider both the membership function, then how will you apply COG technique here? What are the steps? What is the first step? What are the steps involved to apply COG? Yes. First you have to take the union of these two plots. Okay. First you have to take the union of these two plots. If you take the union of these two plots, how it will be? How the plot will be? I mean up to 3, the output will be from C1 or C2. C1, yes. From 0 to 3, the output will be from C1. That is, this portion will be taken. From 3 to 6, the output will be from where? C1 or C2. Yes. So this portion you have to take. Okay. So this will be the resultant plot. The resultant plot will be like this. Now you can divide this plot into several sub-halves. See, this is one area you can take. This is A1 you can take. Okay, this portion you can take A2. Okay. Don't consider this red line. Okay, this portion you can take A3. This is A4. Okay, this is A4. Now we can name this. Now we can A, B, C, D, E. Now we have to find the area of all these things. How will you find the area of A1? Now A1, this entire area, how will you find its area? 1, 0.5. No, less than 1. Between 0 to 1, you have to apply that equation. Previously we discussed line equation. x minus x1 divided by y minus y1 equal to, yeah, y minus y1 divided by x minus x1 equal to y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. So when you take these 2 points, what is x1 y1, what is y1, what is x2 y2? For a and b, what is x1 y1? For a and b, what is x1 y1? 0. Yes. x1 y1 or 0. x2 y2 is, what is x2? x2 is 1, y2 is 0.5. Yes. x2 is 1, y2 is 0.5. Okay. Now if you plug into this equation y minus y1, so that is y minus 0 divided by x minus 0, which is equal to y2 minus y1, that is 0.5 minus 0 is 0.5 divided by x2 minus x1, it is 1 minus 0 is 1. Okay, 0.5 by 1 is 0.5. Okay, so y is equal to what? So y is equal to 0.5 into x. Y is equal to 0.5 into x. So this is applicable for which range? Y is equal to 0.5x is applicable for which range? For which range of x? Okay, A1, that is right, but range of x, what is the range of x? 0 to 1, good. So this is applicable for the range between 0 to 1. Similarly, you have to find B2C. So B2C we need not calculate like this. So B2C from the plot itself it is visible. So for the range of B2C, y is equal to what? This is 0.5x. 0 to 1 it is 0.5x. For the range of for the range of B2C, y is equal to what? Y value is fixed. What is that? From the plot itself you can see 0.5. Yes, 0.5. This is applicable for which range? What is the range of x? 1 2 3. Yes, 1 2 3. Okay. Similarly, you calculate for C2D. For C2D, in this case, what is x1 y1? This C point is x1. This C point is x1 y1. What is x1 y1? 3 and 0.5. Yes, x1 is 3, y1 is 0.5. What is x2 y2? D is x2 y2. 5 and 1. Yeah, x2 is 5, y2 is 1. Okay, now plug into this formula. Y minus y1, so it is y minus 0.5 divided by, you can also calculate and tell me the result, x minus x1, that is 3, equal to y2 minus y1. 1 minus 0.5 is 0.5 divided by x2 minus x1. 5 minus 3 is 2. Okay, so 0.5 by 2 is 0.25, right? 0.5 by 2 is 0.25. So y minus 0.5 is equal to 0.25 into x minus 3. Okay, x minus 3. So it is 0.25x minus 0.75. Okay, 0.75, which is y minus 0.5. Okay, if you bring the 0.5 this side, this is x, 0.25x, then 0.25x minus 0.75 plus 0.5. Okay, so which is minus 0.25. So what you get is minus 0.25x minus 0.25. Okay, so that is what this for this range. Okay, 3 to 5. Similarly, you can calculate for this also, right? Now you apply on to that integration formula and you get it. Okay, right? So this is how this center of gravity technique work. Okay. Similarly, you can work on for center of some technique also. center of sum technique, you have to find separately the area of this curve, okay, and you have to separately find the area of this curve. So in that case, you have to consider this as a trapezoid and find the area, and this, you know, it's a triangle, you find the area of this, then take the center point and do the average. Okay. So that method is called as center of sum method. So like that, here some problems are given. For all these problems, you can apply the various defalsification technique and you can try to find the outputs, right? So here it is asked to find the defalsified value only for this particular region, only for the plot of good student, you have to find the defalsification value, okay? So you can apply any of the centroid techniques, right? So again, if you apply, you take only this plot. If you want to apply COG technique, again this will be one portion, this will be another portion, this will be another portion, like that, right? Okay. So this is another question. Here it says that here there are two membership functions. So these two membership functions represents the width of a road. This two membership function represents the width of a road. See, one road is narrow. The narrow, the road of narrow size is represented through this membership function, and the road which is wider is represented with this membership function. Okay. So this membership function represents a narrow road and this membership function represents a wider road. Okay. Now for a particular road, you got a membership value 0.4. For a particular road, you got a membership value 0.4. Now if you draw a line, horizontal line, so this membership function takes value in this region. Okay. Now you have to convert this to crisp. So this is our area of interest. Our area of interest is this. Okay. Now you can apply a centroid technique, or I mean COG technique, and you can find. So you can divide into three parts. This is one portion. Here to here is another portion. This is another portion. Again find the area. I mean solve the line equation and apply on the COG formula. Right? Okay. Similarly, this particular thing, what it says in the sense, all this graph represents the faulty measure of a circuit. Okay, the faulty measure of a circuit is represented using fuzzy logic. And we are using three membership function to represent that. One is called as faulty, the other one is called as fault tolerant, the other one is called as robust. So this first one is robust. Okay, so this is robust and this is fault tolerant and this is faulty, right? And for all these things, a reliability score is given. Okay, a reliability is measured something like this. Reliability is equal to F union FT union R. F is faulty, FT is fault tolerant, and R is reliable, right? And for all these membership functions, certain parameters were observed in testing. Okay, so these parameters were 0.3 for robust. Okay, 0.3 for robust and 0.5 for fault tolerant and 1.0 for faulty. Okay, so you can see here already there is a line drawn over 0.3 in faulty. Similarly here, in robust, you can see here already a line drawn over 0.5 in fault tolerant and a line drawn over 1.0 in case of faulty. Okay, so the point is, even though the membership function is like this, we are only interested in this region of this particular membership function, and in this membership function we are interested only in this region, and for this membership function we are interested only in this region. Okay, so this is the membership function of our interest. Okay, because these are some parameters observed which is given, so we are interested only on these areas, right? Now we want to convert this to a crisp value, so we are asked to convert using COS technique and COG technique. If you apply COS technique, center of sum technique, what you should do, you have to find the area of, this is a trapezoid, right? This is a trapezoid. First you find the area of this trapezoid and find the middle point of this. The middle point of this is 2.5 and find the, say this, we call it as A1. Okay. Then you find, this is also a trapezoid. Find the area of this trapezoid. Okay. And the middle point is 5. 5 is the middle point. Okay. And you find the area of this this trapezoid. This is also a trapezoid. And here the middle point is 6.5. Okay. All middle points you find and then plug into that formula. That middle point into A1 plus, I mean the first middle point into A1 plus second middle point into A2 plus third middle point into A3 divided by sum of all areas, right? So whatever the result you get, that will be the crisp value. For center of gravity technique, first you have to merge all these graph. You have to merge all these graph and you have to find the union. So as a result, you will get one graph. And then that graph you have to divide into several small parts. And then you have to find the area of each individual parts by solving the line equation. And then you have to plug into that formula of center of gravity, right? Okay. So all these things you can take it as a homework and you can try, right? So that's it about defuzzification techniques. Okay, so these are the various defuzzification techniques. So in the last class we have discussed about alpha cut or delta cut, and in this class we have discussed about various centroid based methods. Okay, like we have discussed what do you call, first we have discussed maxima methods, height method, first of maxima, last of maxima, mean of maxima, and then we have discussed centroid based methods like center of gravity, center of sum. Okay, right. Weighted sum is applicable only for symmetric membership functions, right? So that's it about this particular topic, which is defuzzification. So if you have some doubts you can ask, otherwise we can move to the next topic. Any doubts? Okay, so then let us move on to the next topic. So whatever we have discussed so far, these are the building blocks of fuzzy logic. Okay, whatever we have discussed so far, these are the building blocks of fuzzy logic. In the initial lectures we have discussed a diagram corresponding to fuzzy logic, if you recollect. That is, a typical fuzzy system contains all these things. It contains fuzzy elements, it contains a fuzzy set, it contains basically fuzzy elements, but fuzzy element is a part of a fuzzy set. Fuzzy element is a part of a fuzzy set, and then we have fuzzy relations. Okay, and then we have fuzzy implications. We have fuzzy implications, and we have fuzzy inferences. We have fuzzy inferences. Okay, all these things, and then comes defuzzification. Okay, so these are nothing but the building blocks of fuzzy system. So all these things we have discussed, right? So next we will be moving on to the, now we will be moving on to the next topic, which is applications of fuzzy logic. What, Gautam, why you are telling no sir? Why? You have written no sir. What is the, I have not seen, now only I am seeing. Any reason? Okay, so the topic we will be discussing in this lecture is fuzzy controller. So basically we'll be trying to understand like what are the typical applications of a fuzzy system. Okay, so the fuzzy logic can be applied to many applications. Like it can be used for fuzzy reasoning, fuzzy clustering, fuzzy programming. Okay, so fuzzy reasoning is also called as fuzzy logic controller. Fuzzy reasoning is also called as fuzzy logic controller. Okay. So fuzzy logic controllers are part of expert systems. See, what is an expert system? See, the fuzzy logic is an important concept which is used in artificial intelligence. Because in artificial intelligence, the way in which the human thinks, or the way in which the human reacts, or how the human solves problem, you cannot say that it is strictly mathematical. It is some form of fuzzy, some form of fuzziness is involved. Okay, so through this subject, actually, we are trying to capture that fuzziness, right? Okay, so fuzzy logic controllers are special expert systems. In general, FLC, that is fuzzy logic controller, it includes the knowledge base, and this knowledge base is expressed in terms of fuzzy inference rule. It includes a knowledge base. Knowledge base is something like a database, and this database, it actually, it is expressed in terms of fuzzy inference rule and a fuzzy inference engine. It contains the inference rule, and also it contains inference engine to solve the problems, right? Okay. So we use fuzzy logic controller where an exact mathematical formulation of the problem is not possible or difficult. So this is the catch. So not all the real world problems can be solved by using a perfect formula. That may not be always possible. So in such cases, actually we use fuzzy logic, right? Okay. So these difficulties are due to non-linearities, time varying nature of the process, and large unpredictable environment disturbances. Okay, so you may ask why that is happening. So why is the, see, because most of the real world problems are cannot be solved strictly by mathematics, right? So it is not that all problems in the world can be solved by mathematics. No. So the real world problems normally they are non-linear in nature. Okay, so mathematics provide a perfect solution for linear problems, but but most of the real world problems are non-linear, and they are time varying. That is at different times the problem may behave differently. Okay, and due to unpredictable environment disturbances. Okay, so it is not that when you last time when you solve the problem at that time whatever the environment was there, it is not that that environment will be there now. No, it may not be there. Okay, uh, but then but then your system should not assume that the environment will be like that, and based on that the system should not work. Okay, so this is somewhat related to whatever we have discussed in the introductory part. So basically fuzzy logic is not to solve problems, is basically fuzzy logics are used to solve problems which cannot be solved normally through mathematical procedures, right? So this is the general block diagram of a fuzzy controller. So actually this part is the input. Here the input comes. The input is normally a crisp input. The input is normally a crisp input, and this input goes to fuzzification module. This fuzzification module converts this crisp input to a fuzzy value. It converts it to a fuzzy value. Then it passes through the fuzzy inference engine. Okay, and and it goes through some transformation. Okay, there is actual processing is happening here based on the fuzzy rules. Okay, and the output produced will be an uh, fuzzy output. Okay, and the output produced will be a fuzzy output, but in most of the cases we may need the output as a crisp output, because sometimes we may want to control a machine or something like that. So in that case it will be passed on through a defuzzification module, which will again convert the fuzzy output to a crisp output, and this output will be again uh, sent to the environment, right? Okay, so this is the basic block diagram of a fuzzy controller. So these are the important blocks a fuzzy controller contains. It includes a rule base, fuzzy rule base, which is nothing but the set of all the rules in the fuzzy system. It includes a inference engine for processing, and it includes a fuzzification module, which is used to convert the crisp values to fuzzy values, and also it includes a defuzzification module which is used to convert the fuzzy values to crisp values. Right? Okay. So this diagram basically what it shows in the sense the measurements in the sense input. The input are taken for all variables that represent the relevant condition for control process. So normally these inputs are in crisp form. These inputs are in crisp format, and these measurements are converted to appropriate fuzzy sets. So these crisp values we convert it to fuzzy set, okay, to express some uncertainties, because fuzzy always captures uncertainties. Okay, so this step is called as fuzzification. That is, converting the crisp value to fuzzy sets is called as fuzzification. Okay, the fuzzified measurements are then used by the inference engine to evaluate the control rules stored in the fuzzy rule base. The result of this evaluation is a fuzzy set. Okay, so that is it goes through the inference engine, and it get into through some processing through the fuzzy rule base, and the output also will be a fuzzy set. Okay, it can be either one fuzzy set or several fuzzy set. Right, this fuzzy output is then converted to a crisp value. Okay, this is done by defuzzification module. So this defuzzification values represent actions to be taken by the fuzzy controller. Right, so this is how basically the fuzzy logic controller works. Okay. So there are two ways in which the fuzzy controller can be implemented. There are basically two ways in which the fuzzy logic controller can be implemented. The first method is called as Mamdani approach. So the fuzzy logic controller can be implemented using two techniques. One is called as Mamdani approach. The second technique is called as Takagi and Sugeno's approach. These are the two techniques for implementing fuzzy logic controller. Okay. So the difference between these two techniques are the Mamdani approach. It follows a linguistic fuzzy model, and it has high interpretability, but it has low accuracy. So interpretability means why it is producing that result or how it is behaving. It can be interpreted to a larger extent. Okay, but its accuracy is very less. But its accuracy is less. So this is how this Mamdani approach works. Whereas Takagi and Sugeno's approach, it follows precise fuzzy modeling. That is, it does not follow linguistic modeling. It follows precise fuzzy modeling. It obtains high accuracy, but at the cost of low interpretability. So these both are like quite opposite. The Mamdani model, it is highly interpretable, but its accuracy is less. Whereas Takagi and Sugeno's model, its accuracy is high, but its interpretability is low. Okay. Actually, interpretability is also an important requirement in case of any scientific development. Sometimes you may say that my algorithm or whatever the device I have created, it is providing wonderful result. But actually I don't know how it is providing wonderful result. If you say that way, so actually then it means the system is uninterpretable. That is we are unable to interpret the system, like why it is behaving. Is it behaving in the right way for the right reason or not? That is also important. Okay, it is not the system is just behaving right. Is the system is behaving in the right way for the right reason? Okay, if the system is behaving in the right way for the wrong reason, then that may not be appropriate. Okay, which even this is one of the criticism in deep learning. So if you are aware of deep learning, so deep learning models, they provide accurate results in for face recognition or image classification, all these things. But actually these models are less interpretable. So there is a lot of criticism from the scientific community itself that these models are highly interpretable, highly uninterpretable, and we don't know why they produce such a result. Are they really what do you call? Are they really understanding and producing that result, or somehow it is producing, right? Okay. So interpretability. So what I mean in the sense, interpretability is also equally important as of accuracy. Right? Okay, fine. Let us stop here. Let us stop here. The further things we'll discuss in the next session. So basically, what we'll be discussing in the sense, I'll just give an overview. So we'll be discussing Mamdani approach using this particular example called mobile robot. So here uh, we want to make a robot to move. Okay, we want to navigation of a mobile robot. Okay, in the presence of moving objects. That is, the robot should navigate in the presence of moving objects. So actually, it is a complex problem because in the real world there will be many objects, right? So the purpose, the objective is that the robot should move without hitting any of the objects. Okay, so it's a complex problem. So we actually simplify the problem to a certain extent, something like this. To make the problem simpler, here we are considering only four moving objects. Here we are considering only four moving objects, each of equal size and moving with the same speed. Okay, and the job of the robot is that it should also move, but it should not hit on any of the objects, right? So it is something like this. Okay, so apart from robot, this is robot. Apart from robot, there are four moving objects are there. Okay, and and they can move in any direction, and robot can also move in any direction, but robot should not hit with any of these moving objects, right? Okay, so here we consider two parameters. One is the distance between any object and robot. Okay, the distance between any object and robot. And the other one is the angle between any object and robot. Okay, so these two things here we are considering. So two parameters, d. So d is the distance from the robot to an object. Okay, and theta, the angle of motion of an object with respect to the robot. Right. So the values of these parameters with respect to most critical object will decide an output called deviation. Okay, so the d, the distance, so d is a set, and the set d takes these values 0.1 to 2.2. Okay, in meters. That is 2.2 is the maximum distance that an object can be away from a robot, and this is the minimum distance 0.1. Okay, and theta is the angle in which the that object is moving. Okay, so that is represented as minus 90 to plus 90. Fine. So the working of this problem we'll discuss in the next class. We'll continue there. So we are discussing about fuzzy logic controller, and fuzzy logic controller can be implemented in two methods. One is using Mamdani approach, the other one is Takagi and Sugeno's approach. The Mamdani approach has the advantage of being high accuracy. The Mamdani approach is highly interpretable and it is less in accuracy, whereas Takagi and Sugeno's approach, it has high accuracy but at the cost of interpretability. Fine. So here I am sharing the link for the Google form. You can fill it up. So at 3 o'clock your lab, the quiz 1 will start. 3 to 3:20.